Let's move on. Let's talk about the University of Central Florida, the Fighting Gus Malzahn's over there in Orlando. Gus Malzahn taking over the offensive play calling this year.
Yeah,
That's a big deal. That is a huge deal. He's pretty good at that, if you ask me. He's pretty good at that.
he's got some fun
So,
weapons to play with here.
yeah, I mean, well, let's get into it. Like the quarterback room, KJ Jefferson and Ja'Cory Brown.
Yep.
Uh, two, I'll say similar type players because they have similar builds, I guess. They're both really large human beings that can run. KJ Jefferson, I say, could actually throw the ball. I have not seen Ja'Cory Brown do that effectively yet. But yeah, KJ Jefferson, it'll be interesting because I think John Rice Plumlee was everything that Gus Malzahn wanted, but I think KJ Jefferson kind of fits the mold a little bit better of what he wants. I mean, everyone's gonna say this, all right. He's not Cam Newton, obviously, but it's that's a lazy comparison, I think, but it works in the sense where I think he may try to use KJ Jefferson like he used Cam Newton. You might try to run him a little bit more inside. Like Arkansas did not run a lot of design runs, mostly to protect him last year. He was banged up, but he still had like 700 yards on the ground. I mean, they ran design runs with him, but I think Gus Malzahn's got some cooking for him over there. So I'm really excited to see what that's like. Plus the running back room, man. RJ Harvey and Penny Boone. Can you think of a better Thunder and Lightning combo? But the Thunder's 240 pounds.
But you're looking at two guys that had over 1,400 yards last year. Two
Yeah.
top eight rushers for their respective schools, and they're both in the same backfield with KJ Jefferson. Holy cow! And a running guru like Gus Malzahn, and just to throw Johnny Richardson, Miles Montgomery in there. This is a really nice room, and they did a really good job there. And yeah, I think they're gonna really appreciate what he can do um, with those guys. And Harvey Boone, Boone's a big dude, right? Harvey's a little bit more smaller. He's
Boone
five
is
nine,
huge.
205, but
He's
Penny Boone is six
huge.
one, 242. We're talking about Eddie Lacy, Seattle type big, but he runs the ball extremely hard. He was tough to tackle. And yeah, I think they're gonna enjoy having him there at UCF. Who's, by the way, he's a big time portal at him. He was at Louisville for a little bit. It was a nice win for them to add to a room, and I think that's kind of the beauty of it.
Yeah, and I look at the receiver room, and maybe it's a little bit thinner, but I think they have some guys that are pretty experienced that
I
I
don't mind the
like.
room. I don't
Kobe
mind them.
Hudson.
Yeah,
Kobe Hudson's a good football player, man.
real good player. I think he's gonna really take a step and become that alpha in the room. I mean, you lose a guy like Javon Baker, that's
He almost
gonna
had a
hurt.
thousand yards last year.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
With John Rice Plumlee and Tim McLean stud. But yeah, Xavier
and Javon
Townsend comes
Baker
back.
across him as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. But sorry, Xavier Townsend comes back. I think he's a nice chess piece, what you can do with him versatility wise. Javaris Johnson, a nice little gadget, 5'10", 167. That's fun. Jacoby Jones from Ohio. He had a nice 2022 season, along with most of, I believe, Curtis Rourke and the rest of the Ohio team. And then Ajay Hall comes in. I believe he's a walk-on, if I'm not mistaken, and what they did there for him. But it's more of like a shoot the moon and see what happens there. Anything he gives you is gravy. But again, to just add a body like that in your room, it's pretty nice for UCF.
Yeah, I think this receiver room, the story is that there's a lot of guys in there that have played college football, right? Like when I look at Xavier Townsend, I'm like, that's not a guy that separates all that well, right? He only had like one and a quarter yards per route run, which is, not exactly where you want to be at. But I think if he could definitely take a step up, he's played good college football. He's only a junior,
Hmm.
right? So who's to say that he can't improve, right? So, and like you said, Ajayi Hall, he's a very interesting one. It's a isn't he like a preferred walk on? He's not even on scholarship.
Yeah, they did the PW. Him and I think Cormani McLean as well at Florida. I mean, it's really cheap in state tuition there, so you can use some NIL money to pay for the tuition to keep.
Right. Yeah,
You
I'm
only have
sure
X amount
that.
of scholarships, which is pretty nice move for their collective and the coaching staff there. But again, yeah, nice, just a fun piece to add to your room. And by the way, Kobe Hudson, I didn't realize he was from Auburn as well.
Yeah.
Him and Javaris Johnson. I guess Javaris Johnson's joining him now, but cool little Auburn reunion over there in Orlando.
So then, what are the thoughts in the offensive line here?
We'll see. I think you do not have a ton of starting experience on your
No,
O line coming back,
you really
right?
don't.
Looking at most of your left side, or presumably left side, right? Amari Kite, Adrian Medley, Caden Kilter. These are guys that, kind of new to playing, you know, UCF football, or at least Big 12 football. It's 6 starts between the three of those guys. On the other side, Keegan Smith, I really like, as well as Marcellus Marshall, two guys you feel pretty good about. But um, other than that, the bench is almost like I almost feel better about the depth and like how they go 9 deep as opposed to just the starting five. I mean, Height and Marshall, who might play tackle, might play guard, who knows there. I think that could be a nice duo for you and a good start. But if you're gonna run the football and run it well, you're gonna need a good offensive line.
Yeah, I think it benefits to have KJ Jefferson because having a mobile quarterback like that, a large one, that's
Yeah.
durable, is a big deal. Because John Rich Plumlee had a problem staying on the field. Right, that was a legitimate issue that he had. So yeah, it is interesting to think, man. Just a couple years ago, in the same quarterback room was John Rich Plumlee, Tommy Castellanos, Timmy McClain, and now we have KJ Jefferson and Ja'Cory Brown. What a crazy world! I know we talked about that a little bit on
But
another
what about
episode, but
isn't Mikey Keene? Wasn't he also UCF?
Mikey Keene, I forgot about him as well.
Wild.
Jeez Louise. That's crazy. I mean, QBU. And Dylan Gabriel. What are we talking about?
Oh yeah.
Literally like
The guy in that
a,
room.
a crazy percentage of college football's starting quarterbacks once played at USC or UCF. That's kind of
Pl-
nuts.
Plumlee just got drafted in the XFL, first round guy, which is awesome.
Crazy.
Could be fun in that league.
Yeah. Well, let's move over to the defense, right? You add Ted Roof to that defensive staff. D line is solid. We talked about there's a couple teams in the Big 12 with some solid defensive lines. Lee Hunter, you've mentioned it before. Ricky Barber's healthy now.
Yep.
Derek LeBlanc is eligible. Like this is kind of pieces coming together. It's all coming together.
Yeah, and I also Najee Kelly, former high recruit from Miami. When he's healthy, he puts it together. He's a pretty darn good player for them.
Yeah.
He's just kind of similar to a Jai Hall with different, totally different circumstances, but he's more gravy in terms of what he can give you. If he's healthy, fantastic. But they also have other guys there. Malachi Lawrence, proven guy, I think somewhat 7.5 sacks last year, 10.5 tackles for loss. That's fantastic. Dylan Dotson coming over from UT Martin. 19.5 tackles for loss. Is that true there? 6'3", 255 on the edge there.
It's
I love
crazy.
that. I love that there. And Jamal Johnson's a nice talent for you. A guy you know, kind of growing up in the weeds there on the edge. This is a much different I guess this is a real strength in your room
Yeah.
after losing,
And Morris Brash. You lose Morris Brash.
yep, exactly. Which kind of crazy. Now here's the thing. Consistency is going to be the thing, I think, especially interiorly. Lee Hunter, he has all the talent in the world. 6'4", 320. He moves like you should not move at that size. It's been like that since high school. Um, but how is his conditioning, right? How is his effort down to down? How much of that can you hide and can you just gear him up for big time snaps, I guess. And that comes with the depth of a guy like Ricky Barber, right? A guy like
Yes,
John Walker, a
exactly.
guy like Matthew Alexander, and
Derek
whatnot there.
LeBlanc.
Yep.
So I'm saying like the interior defensive line is crazy. Like I think that depth there, I think allows you to not because you saw. I always use LSU as the example, like in that Florida State game, man. Mekhi Wingo was dominating in the first half,
Yeah.
and he was just gassed. He was playing every single down, and in
Yeah.
the second half, he could not get pressure on Jordan Travis, and Florida State took advantage, and like things like that, that just having that depth there, I think is going to be huge. The linebacker depth is also way different than it was last year. Way different.
Oh, yeah. You're bringing what? Five people? Five new transfers? Is that true? Holy
That I
cow.
think that I think are all I'm counting
Four.
four, but either way.
I've got
Yeah,
five. I don't know why, but
all guys that have played meaningful college football games that um almost all of them have played Power Five football. These are solid gets, solid pieces, guys with experience that I think you're gonna be able to plug and play. And not only plug and play, like because you have the luxury of having these pieces, you kind of get to figure out what works. So, like, I think Deshaun Pace is really talented. I have a feeling that he'll probably be the guy, but then you can kind of figure out from there, like, what are your pieces? Where do they go? Where do they fit? Who's watching film? Whatever it is. I mean, that's a stingy thing to say, but just like they get to pick, who they want to play, right? And they get to
which
see
is a
what
luxury.
works.
Absolutely. The fifth one I was referring to is Ladarius Tennyson. But he's also probably going to play that star position. I have him in the linebacker
Mm,
set, just
got it,
because
got it.
Deshaun Pace probably going to play linebacker, maybe a little bit star. They'll move him around like he did his DB up at Cincinnati, who, by the way, we talked about in our Big 12 Media Day, where he was at Big 12 Media Days last year in 2023 for Cincinnati. This year was there again, this time representing UCF. Kind of crazy about the times that we live in college football, but nonetheless speaks to the character he has to win over a locker room and a coaching staff this quickly for UCF and the familiarity that he has with the Big 12 and UCF playing against them for a while now. Another guy familiar to the Big 12 is Josiah Pierre. He is from Texas Tech. He had 66 tackles a year ago. You really like that. Ethan Barr, Vandy, Zaire Alexander, a little bit more fun from Idaho. See how he transfers to the Big 12. And Cam Moore is just, I don't want to call it still learning the position, but he's year three, and they got talent ahead of him, which is nice. He can continue to grow and really develop until called upon. So we'll see. I mean, you got to feel good though, right? Well, what they did here, you got to feel good.
Yeah, I will comment on the secondary. Don't sleep on it.
Yeah,
It's one of those ones I think we have to wait to see how it plays. But I'm just gonna say now, just don't sleep on it. All right, I think Central Florida fans, maybe you're getting a little bit excited about that. I mean, last year, the secondary wasn't that bad last year, right? It was more that run defense that was literally a bottom five run defense in all of college football. Bottom 10. Same thing, right? That was it's somehow you smash mouth Ollie Gordon in the mouth. I'll never understand that game and what happened there. But the point is your run defense is what was bad, and you bring in a whole new set of linebackers. You bring in um a set of new guys on the offensive, or sorry, new guys on the linebacking core, defensive tackle. You're deep now. Like that run game feels like it could get a little bit patched up. You bring in Ted Roof also on your defensive staff. The secondary, some pieces there, dude. There's definitely some pieces.
it's a nice mix of returning and then infused talent to the portal. I mean, it's safety. You got Quadric Bullard and Damari Henderson coming back that played nice for you, did some things playmaking wise, but then you bring in a guy like Brian Threats, who's played a lot of football for Cincinnati there, and Sheldon Arnold coming in from FCS level, which is fun. So we'll see how that safety position looks up, but I do think the floor is a really nice. It's fine. It's something that you can live with, but the upside is there with maybe your guys taking a step in year two, but also those transfers coming in and elevating that room. Cornerback Brendan Adams, right? 6'3", 190. I like that a lot. He played a good amount last year.
Jason Johnson?
Oh, freshman, baby.
You
Is
love that.
he
The lower rated cornerback of the two cornerbacks they brought in that class. And look,
grit?
these are beat writers, right? This is not me saying this, but I am reverberating what beat writers are saying about this kid. It is that they're most confident with him at corner over some of these other guys that have had meaningful college football snaps. That right now it was early, it was spring, but they seem like they're really comfortable with him playing at corner. And that is exciting because then that means that they're really deep then in that cornerback room, I think.
Yeah, to me, the story of this team and what they did, Gus Malzahn in the portal through recruiting classes the past couple years, is depth. It is, the Noah's Ark right now. You got two of everything, and that you feel pretty darn good about. Maybe not. I mean, O-line, I guess you do feel pretty good about depth wise, and maybe not the high end talent that you want right now. But the reality is you're built for injury, you're built for depth in this Big 12, and they're a team with a pretty substantial win total, and teams that maybe kind of get frisky, Big 12 championship, Big 12, whatnot, and really make some noise pushing on and just kind of climbing the rankings that are the tiers of the Big 12.
Let's go to that win total, right? Their schedule. They played New Hampshire at home, Sam Houston at home, TCU on the road, then a bye, Colorado at home, at Florida, home against Cincy, at Iowa State, home against BYU, home against Arizona, at Arizona State, bye at West Virginia, and they finish with Utah at home. Honestly, it's a pretty tough pull in your conference games, right? Your out of conference game, your premier one at Florida, going to the swamp. It's gonna be tough because you could see Billy Napier fighting for his job. Either way, like Florida's gonna be coming off of um, you know, potential wins against Miami and Texas A&M that are kind of rolling them in the right direction. Um, or it's gonna be backs against the wall, right? Like we're playing like Billy Napier playing for his job kind of
Yeah.
game, in the swamp.
And
So that's going
maybe
to be
we see
tough.
DJ Lagway, maybe we don't, but
But that these UCF boys, these Power Five UCF boys, these boys that are recruiting at a premier level in the Big 12, you know that they want to win this game so bad. And you know that they're going to bring absolutely everything at this. So I'm not gonna like when I'm tallying up the win totals, I don't count that as like a chalk like an automatic win, but I also don't chalk it up as a loss either. So that'll be really interesting. I have a really tough time with this win total. I have a really tough time with this win total because of some of the dynamics. Like luckily you play Arizona and Utah at home, but you draw Iowa State. I think going to TCU is pretty tough. Again, you bring up the Florida game. These are all things at West Virginia. Like these are all things. Like to me, this is not the easiest schedule. Sure, you get Arizona State, you get Cincinnati at home, and you get Colorado at home, right? Those are games you gotta win. Then if you win at New Hampshire or versus New Hampshire and Sam Houston, sure, awesome. I don't know. I think they can go over, but I struggle. I struggle taking this over, but they are good, man. I think this could be a really good team. I'm gonna go with the under though. I think 7-5 is the most likely outcome, despite how hyped up I was about this team and ready to talk about that.
listen, I'll go over. I think I hear everything you're
All
saying,
right,
and I
all
and I
right.
hate
I like
I
that though. I
hate
like that.
yeah, I hate the Florida. Like, why is that in the middle of week 6? What are we doing? Regardless, though, you still have to play them, and I guess it doesn't really matter conference-wise. It's sandwiched between two games that I think you should win in Colorado and Cincinnati. And pretty nice is you play in New Hampshire without Dylan Laub, without Max Brosman. That's two NFL guys. Not that you would struggle with them to begin with, but
Yeah.
just wanted to throw that in there. We love Dylan Laub, and so yeah, you should go. 2-0 in conference, out of conference. We'll see what Florida does, but yeah, TCU, Utah, Zona, Iowa State, West Virginia. Those are teams you don't really want to be playing in the Big 12, but they're going to be on there because there's a lot of those teams this year. And I think the way Malzahn is, the depth that they
They could
have,
so steal a couple of those games.
absolutely. There
They
is no
so could.
reason that they cannot. And I know a couple of them on the road, right? TCU and Iowa State, West Virginia, but I still think they can win. I still think they get done. I'm gonna go over 8-4 plus.
Yeah. I mean, part of the reason why I'm going under is because some of these teams that I'm high on, Utah, obviously. I am high on West Virginia. Spoiler alert. I'm high on Arizona. You already saw that. I'm high on Iowa State. I'm high on DZU. I'm a little bit higher on Florida than I think a lot of people are.
Yeah, definitely.
So I don't know. Again, they're gonna steal some of those games, maybe, but it'll be interesting. I'm really excited to see this team. I'm really excited. I can't wait to watch UCF football this year.